What's going on, everyone? Well, the Los Angeles Lakers are waiving Blake Hinson in order to bring in Christian Koloko. I'm actually a little surprised Christian Koloko is actually signing a two-way deal. He had several options. This, to me, means that he just really wanted to be on the Lakers, which, again, makes sense, right? We've seen several players basically use the Lakers as their opportunity to kind of shine a spotlight. This also gives him 52 games now, roughly, to show what he can do this season. But I think that this is more of just like a down the road type thing. I think more likely than not, you go into the season, whatever ends up happening, Lakers trade for Valanciunas or not, or do whatever. Jackson Hayes would be coming off the books at the end of this season, so you could just have either Colin Castleton or, more likely, bring in a Christian Koloko and have him fill in kind of the Jackson Hayes role and kind of develop. If you were to get, say, a Valanciunas, his contract lines up with LeBron's and everything, so you could just kind of not pick up his option on that final year, and then bring Koloko as your starter or your primary backup, however you want to approach it. Or you could pick up Valanciunas, have him be your backup, and maybe if LeBron rides off into the sunset, AD slides over to the 4, and maybe you have Koloko as your 5. It's always a possibility. As far as waiving Blake Hinson, I'm not going to lie, I'm disappointed about that. I personally would have, if you were going to waive anybody, waive Colin Castleton. I like Colin Castleton a lot. I really want to see what he can do on an NBA basketball court. Is he without his flaws? Of course not. This is a guy that, he's 6'11", and he might as well be 5'11" at times, right? He plays so just light. He's not very physical. He's not very imposing, but he has shown some real improvements. He has shown the ability to stretch the floor, knock down the three ball. He was arguably, if not the best player in Summer League for us. His ability to make plays in the post, his ability to make plays out of the post, right? He is a very versatile center. I'd like to see him be a little more physical, which is why I want the Lakers to kind of just throw him out to the Wolves and see what happens. You're either going to get eaten alive or you're going to survive, so pick one. Right? Like, how else do you adjust to the physicality and kind of impose your will unless you're kind of thrown out there to do so? But my thing is, like, how many centers do we need? Like, how many, between Christian Wood and Koloko, you have 2 there. Then you have Anthony Davis, Christian Wood, Jackson Hayes. And are you still going to go trade for Valanciunas? Like, what's the plan here? Right? Like, at some point, you got to start making some decisions. Where Blake Hinson, to me, was a guy that he's a skill set. I understand he's shooter and not really much else, but there's still value in that. There's plenty of guys that have made careers out of just being shooters. And to me, with Blake Hinson, I would have liked to see you kind of take the time to grow and develop him for a year or so, and then you potentially could need him, especially if you end up trading like a Rui Hachimura or something like that. He might be a guy that you need in spot minutes off the bench just to shoot some shots. And we've been searching for a guy like him for years now, right? The closest thing we had was a Malik Beasley, and he completely forgot how to shoot. At least Blake Hinson looks like he's not afraid at the moment. At least Blake Hinson looks like he has the opportunity. You could argue it's kind of that like Cole Swider type thing where it's just like, he's going to get waived, and then another team's going to pick him up. And, may utilize him, may not. Cole Swider isn't really being utilized heavily. He was just in Summer League too. I don't know. Look, I will say I am glad that the Lakers didn't waive Armel Traore. I am incredibly high on him. Is he raw? Does he need time to develop? Of course. But Armel Traore might be the best young talent we have. I mean, his size, his ability to basically play 3 through 5, his length, his versatility. He showed the ability to defend basically 1 through 5. I mean, even in Summer League, he was switching out to guards and all that stuff, right? Showed a little ability to stretch the floor, knock down the 3, make some plays. His brother even is about to be drafted probably number 2 overall in this coming draft. So it's in the blood, right? Like, I think Armel Traore has a world of potential. He's also still very young, right? I mean, you could somebody like him, you could develop him the next 3 years and he'd still be younger than Blake Hinson. He'd still be younger than Koloko. He'd still be younger than, Dalton Connect right now, right? I'm not talking about obviously 3 years. I'm talking about right now, like the age difference, right? So you have just so much wiggle room with him. He's the guy that I was like stressing we really need to keep. I want to see the Lakers keep him, right? Like he could end up becoming our like OG type player. I'm not saying he will be as good as OG or anything, but that OG light, that sizable forward that can play multiple positions, defend multiple positions. Hopefully he can get at least a serviceable 3-point shot, right? If he can knock down at a 37% clip. It's pretty good. Be a legit two-way guy, play multiple positions. That's the kind of player that you need. That's the kind of player that you want to grow and develop in your farm system. Now, obviously, you only had 3 options, so obviously, the choices are limited. I would have preferred a trade. I was hoping, that something was cooking up, something was in the works, which, might have been, and then just nothing happened, nothing developed, right? Because usually you hear about what's going to happen within the hour of a guy signing, right? Usually it's not something where, 2 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours, 24 hours later, right? You find something out. But it may have just been the Lakers trying to figure out, and trying to make the call on who to waive as the two-way guy. Again, I am a little surprised Koloko was willing to take a two-way contract because you had several teams, the Spurs, you had the Raptors. You had several teams that would have been more than happy to bring him on. Even the Pelicans might have been able, they're desperate for a center. They might have been able to work something out to have him maybe even start for them. So for him to have all these offers and still choose the Lakers, good sign, right? Now it just depends on what's the role he's going to play, because supposedly he's expected to get the opportunity to actually play a role in the front court. But here's the thing, right? You already have Jackson Hayes. What does that mean for Jackson Hayes? Anthony Davis is still going to play center to an extent, right? Yes, he's not going to play. He doesn't want to play 40 minutes a game at center, but he's still going to play a fair amount at the center position. He's still going to play, 20 to 25 minutes at center. So you have him, right? And then if you play him at the 4, right, say 15 minutes a game, right? Well, now in those 15 minutes he's playing the 4, LeBron's playing the 3. So now you just kind of, how do you find minutes for Rui? How do you find minutes for all these guys? Right? And then Christian Wood, when he comes back, you could argue, well, Christian Wood could play the 4. Yes, that's true. But again, if LeBron's going to play 15 minutes at the 4, and Anthony Davis is going to play 15 minutes at the 4, and also play 20 minutes at the 3, and now Rui's got to play minutes between the 3 and the 4, where do you get minutes for Christian Wood? Right? So are you unloading one of these guys? Are you trading one of these guys? Valanciunas, if you bring Valanciunas in, like I said, are you still going for a veteran-style center? If so, you got all these centers. Where does Koloko fit into all that? Right? And I understand, this makes sense, right? And especially for this is a huge win for the Lakers, in my opinion, right? Because there is concerns with Koloko, right? There are questions. He hasn't played in a year and a half, right? What is his conditioning? What is his strength like, right? He's probably going to take a year just to kind of get back to where he was, and that's not even counting you need to develop him, right? So he might be a guy that you have to develop the next 2-3 years minimum to really kind of get into the role that you need him to get. Worst case, hopefully, you're hoping he's the immediate backup, in a year or two, right? Your best hope is that, like I said earlier, right? Jackson Hayes departs, he comes in, there you go, right? And you got your 3 centers of, Anthony Davis, Giannis Valanciunas, just to use an example, and Koloko, right? That could be it. But this season, again, if he's really expecting an opportunity, yes, you could argue, okay, well, the timeline kind of lines up, right? Because you got Christian Wood, who's going to miss at least the first month, at least, right? Because he's going to be reevaluated in 8 weeks. So that doesn't mean he's coming back in 8 weeks, just means that that's when he's going to be reevaluated. So you have that. So let's say he misses 2 months, because now the Lakers kind of take their time, don't want to rush him back, take it easy, take it slow. Okay, now he's back, right? And if he plays, say, 40 games or whatever, then now that gets you to the trade deadline. So I do think, at least in the front half of the season, that Koloko is going to get some real opportunity. I do think in the front half of the season, Koloko might play, 20 plus games. We'll see how that goes. I do think but I want to see him outside of garbage time though too, right? Like, is he the immediate backup behind Anthony Davis? I don't believe so. So he's still going to be the third center on most nights, if not all, right? Except for, obviously if Anthony Davis misses a game, maybe bring Koloko in, start Hayes, Koloko comes off the bench, something like that. But more likely than not, you're looking at something where, he's not, how does he get meaningful minutes? And what happens if he's good? What happens if he's really good for us? What happens if he's a 5-5 guy in limited minutes with like 2 blocks, right? You might think like that's nothing, but if he's only playing 12 minutes a game, like that's huge, especially as your third backup, right? Like that's massive. So I don't know, a lot to consider. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you feel like they shouldn't have waived Blake Hinson? Are you okay with them waiving Blake Hinson? Think they should have went with somebody else, Traore or Castleton? Are you excited for the addition of Koloko on a two-way? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.